the reason I like small businesses and entrepreneurs is there's such a bigger mindset and a passion and a purpose behind why they're doing what they're doing.
You have found Authentic Business Adventures, the business program that brings you the struggle stories and triumphant successes of business owners across the land. We're locally underwritten by the Bank of Sun Prairie. Downloadable audio episodes can be found in the podcast link found at drawincustomers.com. And today we're welcoming / preparing to learn from Mike Schuster, the owner of FiddleSmart Marketing, which means that we were talking about marketing. So Mike, how is it going today?
Yeah, it's going really well.
I'm excited to have you because the marketing game, I mean, it's very broad,
right?
But it's a big game. So let's start out, just let the world know, what is FiddleSmart Marketing?
Yeah, so FiddleSmart Marketing is a practice I started about 5 years ago to help small business owners navigate marketing. Marketing's confusing. Everybody thinks they can do marketing until they get into marketing.
Right.
And then it's, what do I say? What do I do? Where do I focus to attract and find more customers? And I wanted to help small business owners navigate that field and put together a program that's designed for their business.
All right. So is that to the point that you give them ideas on what to do, or do you actually do it for them or help them with it? Or
yeah, a range of all of it. It goes somewhat from helping somebody do some analysis and pick it out and figure out what to do, and they might take it from there and implement it, to the bigger areas, coaching them through it and giving them guidance as they're implementing strategies and putting things together. And then some people will say, I don't want to deal with all of that, but can you put it in place and take care of it for me? And so
just take care of this.
Right.
This is one less thing. I'm good at my whatever my profession is, right?
Right.
Painter, plumber, massage, whatever it is you do. I'm not a marketer, so go market me. Bring me the customers and I'll take care of them, kind of thing.
Right.
All right. How did you end up starting your own business?
So I spent 25 years on the other side, working for family-owned businesses, in doing business management and marketing in a few different companies. And then during a career transition, which is what happens to so many of us at times, I was left with, what do I want to do next in my career?
Yeah.
And I had some people say, well, you should consult, you should help people out. And I told them they were crazy, that nobody starts their own business when they've got kids getting ready to go off to college in a few years, and you're hitting that phase of life. Like, who's crazy enough to do that?
I can tell you a lot of people that sat in the chair that you're sitting in.
Yeah.
A lot of people.
You find there's more people than you know.
Oh, yeah.
And so I did some exploration, talked to a bunch of business owners, and decided to take the leap.
Nice.
And start my own practice as opposed to just moving into another company again.
All right. So are you married?
Yes.
All right. So you had a spouse, and you're like, hey, spouse, I'm quitting this gig, my W-2 with the biweekly paycheck and the vacation and all the things, the benefits, I don't know, whatever they have. And I'm going to go off on my own, hang my shingle, and I don't know what's going to happen. How do they take it?
Yeah, she actually was more supportive than I was of the decision at first. Right? So, I mean, it was a career transition where I found myself in, I need to decide what I'm doing, because I was told the company that I was working for, it was one of those situations we no longer need somebody in your position.
Gotcha. Okay.
And we're changing the structure and along those lines. So it was, well, where am I going and what am I doing next? But yeah, she was like, well, explore it, look at all of it. It probably took me 3 to 4 months, or maybe longer, to decide that's what I was going to do. I did a few small things on the side to test it out. And I said, I think this is what I should do. She said, well, yeah, I've known that for 3 months already.
Like a good wife. She knows
right.
it. Yeah.
And it came down to what she really said was, well, in 10 years, if you don't do this, are you going to look back and regret not giving it a shot?
Yeah.
She said, you can always go get another job.
Mm-hmm.
So is this something that you'd look back on and regret not taking that opportunity? And that's sort of what cemented it in some ways, of like, yeah, probably.
Well, it's an incredible question, right?
Probably would regret it. And we had gone through the same thing when she, in the process of having and building our family, when our third child came around, she was feeling like she wanted to stay home.
Okay.
So she really just turned the lens on me, because at that time I said to her, well, you get one shot at this if you want to stay home.
You don't get to push the pause button.
Or not necessarily, you can't pause their growth. So if you want to give it a shot, are you going to regret it if you don't? Because she wasn't sure at the time, am I going to enjoy this, not enjoy it? I'm just feeling led to stay home. And so she had that opportunity. And so when this came up, she said, well, like sort of fair play. Like you put that question on me back then, I'm putting it on you now.
All right. Very cool. So when you first started and you were just kind of dabbling, I'll dare call it, I guess. What did you do? What was the action steps that you took to just try to make sure that this is what you want, or that you even have the skills to do it, kind of thing?
Yeah, I had gone, I went to an industry conference that I had attended a number of times with my, when I was working for other companies, and talked to some different people there, met a couple people, and somebody said, well, I'm really struggling with marketing for my business right now. Could you do something and help me out? And I said, well, sure. Let me do some, based on what his business was, let me do some analysis for you. Come in and do what I might do if I was going to be your head of marketing, to learn some of the analysis you'd have to do to determine strategy, and then come back with recommendations on how you can fix it. And so that was the sort of first big thing. And going through it, I'm like, yep, I got it. And then he was, I guess I could say, blown away by the recommendations. Like, wow, I didn't think you could come up with that many suggestions. And so they just sort of cemented the whole, there's the ability to sort of what I'll call helicopter in, learn quickly, and give people direction.
So when you say learn quickly, it's learning about the specific industry that you're marketing for?
Yeah, learning about the dynamics of their business.
Okay.
And the specific industry that they're in. So pulling enough information from them to start understanding their customer and some of the dynamics. And then based on business models in the financials, so since I ran businesses, I can't look at it independently. It's just the thing. I'm like, well, how does this all play in the financials of the company? And how do these decisions impact your margins and your and other things, or how do your customers behave, and how do we take care of that? Because while there's similarities, there's always some differences.
Sure.
So it's getting in and sort of looking, based on the size of the company, what are those dynamics and what's going on, and so that helps you focus what lever can you pull to change the results.
All right. Because I imagine if you're marketing a junkyard versus an electromagnet company versus a AI chip company or something like that, you're going to use different channels and you're going to communicate different ways, and the things that you present to people are not going to be the same. I don't know, whether you're on TikTok or doing website SEO stuff or whatever it is that you're trying to do, there's going to be a different cadence or rhythm to whoever you're marketing to. Is that the idea?
Yeah. So different companies are going to have different buying cycles. Mm-hmm. So some things you might be able to get somebody to buy quickly. And they're buying more often, more of an impulse type business, or you have other things that are high investments that are a longer nurturing process.
All right. So selling hot dogs versus hot dog stands.
Right.
Kind of thing.
Yep.
Okay.
So when you're selling a hot dog, if you're building a business selling hot dogs, you're going to market differently than if you're selling the hot dog stands, where somebody might need more time to decide.
Sure. And
you need to nurture the relationship differently.
Yeah.
And you're nurturing a relationship differently when you're selling the hot dog, trying to get people to come back multiple times and keep buying.
All right. You don't have to talk about financing with the hot dog.
Right.
With a hot dog stand, maybe you do.
Right.
All right.
So you're going to have those nuances and those differences. The cool thing about it all is ultimately you're always talking to a person.
Fair. Totally fair.
Right. So you're always looking at what is it that's going to motivate somebody or connect with them emotionally and start forming a relationship. So you're always going to look for, well, what's that connection we're making? How are we having conversations and building a relationship? And ultimately, how are we getting the person to take steps towards buying from us and persuading them?
Yeah, it's interesting. I guess, what have you found, if we dig into the the media channels that you have.
Yeah.
You have all the different social media channels, and there's a wide gamut there. You have all the internet places that you can market, which wide gamut there. Then you have the old school stuff, the TV, radio, magazines, newspapers, if they're still a thing. So are there any channels I should start there? Are there any channels that you don't deal with at all?
Yeah, there's some channels that I personally wouldn't execute, but I can partner somebody up.
All right.
Or work on their behalf with a representative of that because I know how to speak their lingo. But I may not have a full breadth of expertise to say that I'm going to actually go in and turn the dials on certain things for you. But,
all right. Are there some channels that you like more or less universally?
Well, from a foundational standpoint, most people need to find a lot of people need to do some work on their website in their general online profiles of where people are finding them.
No doubt. It's funny. It's ironic that you say that because I was just digging on my website for this podcast, a couple hours ago, and I was looking at it, and it's funny because it's almost, I tried to look at it from an outsider looking in.
Yeah. And
I don't look at the front end of the website hardly ever. And I looked at it and I was like, ooh, this looks old. We're not talking 1990s,
right,
but we're definitely talking mid-2000s kind of thing. This looks dated.
So I call that walking through your own front door.
Yeah.
So when we managed, or when the business I was working in, we had a retail store as part of our service. Is we had a store, and you're always coming in through the back door.
Sure.
Right. So I would often make sure, and we'd encourage everybody in the store periodically to, like, if I was going to a meeting with the store, I would often go out the office door, walk down the sidewalk, and then go in through the front store. So you experience it the way the customer's experiencing it. And you can do that in a store, you can do it on your website, right? Because we go in through the back end to do our changes, and we're not really paying attention, and we get all the extra coding stuff that,
right,
or graphics or other stuff that throws up on it in the builders, and we forget to say, hey, if I didn't know anything about my company, like, would I know what I'm doing, what we sell, or why it matters if I came in through that door, or can I find the information that I might be
fair? Even know where to
looking
find
for?
it.
Like, do you know where to find it? Because we get so wrapped up, or sometimes with the knowledge of, like, well, you just go here.
Mm-hmm.
But somebody else who doesn't know you might go to your site and have to click around 10 times to try to find a piece of information, and they're not generally going to try that hard.
It's interesting you say that, because I have employees with the call answering service, and I just asked them a question it was a form, essentially, so they were free to answer it on their own. And the question was a question that I actually pulled from Tim Ferriss asked if you could put something on a billboard, what would it be? So I asked this question, like, hey, if you're going to put up a billboard, let's just say you can put up whatever you want on this billboard on the busiest highway in the country, whatever highway you believe that to be. What would you put on this billboard? And it was so interesting, the answers I got. One, because some people did quotes, great. Some people they essentially asked for more direction. So their answer was, is this for this company or me personally or what? And others, you could tell they were just like, how do I kiss the boss's butt kind of thing. Like, calls on call is awesome kind of thing, or something like that. And it made me take a step back, because my intention was to get something that they would like the world to know, whatever that is.
Sure.
Right? Just universally, whatever you'd like the world to know. And from listening to the answers on a more public scale to that question, I would get reasonable answers. Like, mine would be just something that says, keep it moving.
Right.
For both traffic and life. But for these, dozen people, I got all these different things. So then that made me think about that when I was going through my website. I'm like, this button says get started. And if I took that button, or if I asked my crew, what do you think happens when you push that button? I bet I'd get a dozen answers, and I bet 6 of them would make me think, how did you come up with that? So I guess that's why we hire people like you to think, here's the situation. We have humans, and this is how humans think, or this is how humans think.
Right.
It's going to be one of these actions.
Right.
So this is how we steer them towards what we actually want them to do.
Yeah.
It's so interesting because that question for me, I didn't mean it to be a psychological game. I just wanted it to be fun because the rest of the form was kind of boring.
Right. Right.
And so I thought, hey, this will be a fun little thing. And it turned into this, what in the world was that kind of thing? Like, oh, who hired these people? Anyways, for the most part, it was cool, but it just makes you step back and think like, okay, these are humans.
Right.
Humans don't always follow a straight and narrow path.
Right. Right. They're gonna bounce all over the place. Like, and we fall into that issue as business owners too. We want our customers or our prospects to start here, move here, do this, and then you're a customer, you're buying, or you're doing whatever, right? But the fact of the matter is they don't. They're going to they might come in on any one of those points, and then they might circle around for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to be thinking of the relationship in any way, but also making it easy to say, hey, here's the next step I want you to take, but if I've given you 10 different steps you can take, now I've confused the customer.
Right, confused customers don't buy.
And they aren't going to make a decision. So, and it all goes back to weird neuroscience stuff, and we like choices. We don't like making decisions.
Oh, so true, especially in the Midwest.
Yeah, yeah.
Funny.
So I mean, there's a balance between how many choices you give somebody and the decision, because if you present too many choices, then they get paralyzed. It's like going to the grocery store and seeing 15 varieties of spaghetti sauce and going, which one do I buy? Do I want watery, extra chunky with vegetables, this, robust? Right. And if there's just 3, it'd be a lot easier for someone to be like, I want this. Yeah, I'll take that one.
That reminds me, I was just at a Mexican restaurant the other day, and I'm like, there's 75 things on here.
Right.
Beans and rice and meat of some kind. We got it down. Just point to one.
Yeah.
I always wonder if you could just put your customer funnel on the homepage of your website and be like, this is our plan for you, just so you know. Right? This is the yellow brick road that we would like you to follow.
Right.
But they don't. I don't know if maybe you could. I don't know.
Yeah, depending. You might be able to do a little bit of that.
Sure. Like, this is literally where we want you to be so that you end up buying from us.
Right.
Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
So let's go back to the small businesses.
Sure.
In marketing, I imagine you see some people in small business do their own ish.
Oh, yeah.
What are, let's just say, top 3 mistakes that business owners make when they're doing their own marketing?
Yeah. So the biggest mistake people make is they're confusing their customer, but they're really focused on them and not on the customer.
Them as the owner.
Them as the owner of the business. It's sort of like, look at us, this is what the business does, we're great, we're X, Y, and Z, but ultimately as consumers, we're selfish. We're always looking at what's in it for me. Mm-hmm. So if you're not helping somebody see what's in it for them, like what's the value, what are they getting, not the hyperboles, we're award winning, or we have quality service, or we do, we just have great products. Like, a lot of that's who cares.
Right.
Like, I hope you do. Like, I hope you've got good service. You're in business, right? Mm-hmm. But so you either have to be specific, or you have to tie it back to like how that improves their experience. Like, what is it about the service that makes it great?
Okay.
So in a lot of people, they focus on them. The biggest thing is they have a hard time saying what is it that they do in a way that somebody understands.
Oh, like the business owner themselves has a hard time explaining what they do.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
They end up with something. Sometimes it's using really big words in industry jargon, but nobody at a barbecue or talking to a friend is going to use terms of, I really need my company to be better at operational excellence, right? You say,
what does that even mean?
I need my company to get orders out on time and ship the right stuff to to the customer, right?
Sure.
That's the type of thing they might be saying to their buddy if they're having trouble
All
in
right.
that area.
I'm a people person.
And if you're the person who solves that, you're not going to communicate well with somebody if you're like, I'll help you excel operationally.
All right. Because that's not how people talk.
It's not how they talk,
Right.
and so they can't get their minds or their hands around a tangible idea of what that really is.
Sure. Okay.
So if you can get your prospect to be sort of like have that mindset of, how'd you get in my head? like you're in my head. Like you're saying all the things like I'm dealing with. Then they're making an emotional
Got it. Okay.
connection with you,
So
right? They're
connecting
like,
with
I get you. You get me. You understand me.
Gotcha.
Because you're using the words they use.
Right. The nomenclature. Okay. That makes sense. All right. It's funny. I can remember talking with someone that I never met before. I'm at a wedding, and my wife's like, "Oh, who is that?" And I was like, Jerry, whatever. And she's like, "Oh, what does he do?" I have no idea. He was doing most of the talking, right? 80% of the time, whatever. And I still have no freaking clue what he does. There's something about technology solutions,
Sure.
which maybe it's a spinning mop, maybe it's AI chips. I have no idea.
Yeah, and you'll find stuff like we sell integrated technology solutions, right? It's like, what is that?
What does that even mean?
Yeah. I don't know what that means.
Fair. Totally
Right.
fair.
We make it easier for your employees to communicate. I get with that, that
2 cans and a string,
something
or
like
is that-
that starts helping me say,
Sure.
so you have solutions that make it easy for people to communicate.
I like that. That's funny. See that so often.
Yeah.
What's another mistake that these business owners make?
Trying, sort of chasing the next shiny object.
Oh, all right.
So it's sort of a scattered approach to marketing. It's like, I'll do this. This is what everybody's saying I need to do. I'll start that. And well, wait, no, I'll go over here and do this. And no, wait, I'll go over here and do this. And the problem is they're spreading themselves so thin that they're not getting any focus or traction in any one area. And most often when they're caught doing that, they're also not spending enough time to let anything build momentum.
Okay.
So it's by the time something starts going, they're bored and like, this isn't working. I tried it for 2 weeks.
I just implemented my marketing 2 weeks ago.
And it didn't.
How come I'm not a billionaire?
Right. And it's everything's not coming off the hook. It takes time.
Mm-hmm.
It's a process of focusing on what's going to make a difference, taking action on something, seeing what those results are, and refining it.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll learn. Yeah, there's certain things. Okay, that doesn't work at all. So we either have to completely reinvent it or go somewhere else. But it's not a cookie cutter black and white. You can just do this and you get overnight success. No matter what you'll see the ads and the people saying, my blueprint will get you, X in 30 days. Well, maybe, but most of the time, no.
So it's so funny you say that because I published a book, 2017, and you have all these people just reaching out to you, telling you how they're going to make you the next Stephen King or whatever.
Yeah.
And this marketing guy reaches out to me and he's like, "Hey man, I'll make you bestseller, blah 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 blah." And I'm like, "Hey man, that sounds great. How much?" And he throws down this price. I don't know what it was, $5,000 or something like that. And I'm like, "That sounds great. $5,000. In order for me to justify $5,000, I have to sell whatever. You got to sell like 10,000 books or something like that. 10,000 books for a no-name author. That's a lot of books." So I'm like, I'm happy to do that if you can guarantee me, because I'm not in the business of breaking even. If I pay you, I can sell at least 15,000 books. And he's like, whoa. No one can guarantee that. And I'm like, hey, according to your email that you initially sent me, you kind of sounded like you could. So it came down to, if you don't believe in your service, I don't either.
Right.
Kind of thing.
Right.
But the email came in there, guns blazing, promising the world. And I was like, the world sounds great.
Yeah.
I'll totally do that.
The world always sounds great.
Yeah. And then when you call them on it, they're like, whoa, no. We are really good at taking your money. we're not necessarily good at actually delivering the service that we mentioned that we could. So marketing is a tough game.
It is.
Very tough game.
It is, and it's there isn't necessarily a clear answer, right? And I'm straightforward with most people on that. That you might strike it and find something that explodes. Some of it's always going to come down to how much. So most of the people I work aren't necessarily sitting on huge budgets, so they don't.
Right.
You can throw a ton of cash against something, and you can. I guess the best way to think of it is you can throw gas on the fire or on a pile of logs and light it, right? But you're going to get that quick flare up, and it might boost a whole bunch of stuff. But when you take that strategy, which for some people that's the right one, that's what they want to do, you're always going to have to pour more gas on the fire to keep it going.
Sure.
Like you're just always fueling it. The long road, but the sustainable road is to say I'm gonna build a foundation. I'm gonna build the fire right, so that when I can put the sparks into it, it's gonna slowly burn. But stacked upright, that thing's gonna burn
Sure, a long
on
time.
its own for a long time.
Long
So
time.
if you're building that momentum and doing a lot of things right, it's gonna take longer to get the fire going. But your fire becomes more sustainable and building upon itself. Like I can just put another log on
Sure.
and keep it going.
Fair. Now tell me, when you are working with business owners, I imagine almost every entrepreneur, myself and you included, right, has to have some form of an ego because we believe that we do it well.
Sure.
Right? You have to.
Yeah.
If you don't have some form of ego, you're probably not doing that well in business because you're like, I'm not that great. I'm not that great.
Yeah, you've got to have confidence.
Yeah. So, challenge I imagine that you run into is you're talking to these business owners saying, hey, here's the situation. I think you should do X, Y, and Z. And they may counter back and say, no. I'm the big ego entrepreneur. I think we should do X, Y, and Z. So I guess the question comes down to, how often do you get pushback when you offer suggestions for places that people should market?
Not a ton.
That's good.
But there will be some. Usually it's more a why not this, or help me understand
All right.
This, or
Sure.
I was thinking I should do this. Why aren't you?
Let's throw $1 million into Yellow Pages, right? Why not?
Right. Why not do it? Right. So then,
Worked for my grandpa.
so I always go with, well, ultimately it's their money.
Fair. Totally fair.
Okay. So if somebody really wants to throw, we'll just use Yellow Pages as an example, wants to throw all this money into Yellow Pages, I'm going to counsel them on why I think that might be a bad idea, and where I think they'd be better off. But ultimately, if they say, that's what I want to do, I may say, I don't know that I'm going to help you execute that, but go for it.
All right.
Here's what I want you to look at, and here's what I think you should measure or pay attention to as you do that. And then, and see how it goes, right? Because ultimately, I can't force you to spend your money
Sure.
in a certain way. And so I'm not going to take it on myself to say, I've got to put my
Yeah,
foot. Now
you must.
I'm more likely to put my foot in the ground and say I won't even let you do it with my help if it's something that I consider ethical
Gotcha. Okay.
or manipulative. So there's plenty of hype and false hype practices out there. Let's overhype something. Let's promise you the world when we're not going to deliver it.
I believe almost every commercial that I've ever seen has been overhyped. If I open up this beer, this freight train comes through.
Right. Now some of that's a story and an image type
Sure.
thing, but when people are out there being inauthentic and promising something that isn't true, or they want to use false deadlines just to get somebody to take action, but that clock's going to reset every time you refresh the page. I'm going to tell you I'm not going to do that, because ultimately I believe that damages your business in the long term. You might get short-term gains, but you're really going to damage yourself, and it's not a good way. It's not good business.
Fair.
Because ultimately, as a consumer, you see that, you're like, oh, man, I got hoodwinked, right? I took advantage of that, and you're not building a long-term relationship. So that's a business built on transactions. And my general belief is you want to build a business on relationships.
All right.
And you want to use marketing to help further that relationship and build that relationship, because you can do it more at scale with marketing than you can one-on-one with people.
Fair.
So that's a reason to do marketing. So it sort of goes, yes, the goal ultimately is getting more sales. The goal with any business, you're ultimately there to make money, but your sole purpose isn't to make money. Or if a business owner sees their sole purpose as the only reason I'm in business is to make money, there's other people that are better to work with them than me.
Sure. Fair.
Right?
Fair.
Because it's more about, the reason I like small businesses and entrepreneurs is there's such a bigger mindset and a passion and a purpose behind why they're doing what they're doing.
Yeah.
There's easier ways to just make money,
right,
than to necessarily launch a business.
Fair. Not many, but yeah.
I mean, you're gonna make money, but
you should.
But there's a lot of jobs where you can just you can go in essence punch the clock and make money. So if your only goal is I just want cash,
right?
It isn't as sustainable.
Right. Fair.
It's much, even from being in management, it's much harder to motivate it. If you build a business that you want a team, it's much harder to motivate a team long term. If the only goal you're going for, the only reason you're doing something is we want to hit this next revenue target, because that carrot keeps moving.
Right. Yeah. Grow.
As opposed to we want to serve X number of people, or we want to make a difference to this group of people in this way. And so the more people we're serving, the more customers we're working with, the bigger the difference we're making.
Yeah. So I have a daily email that I have each member of my crew send me. And I have a template, these questions, and one of them is, how many people did you help today?
Yeah.
So, and it comes down to, I'm looking at calls per hour.
Sure.
But I want them to see, like, you're not just picking up the phone and hanging it up. You're actually helping that person that's answering the phone, and thereby helping our client, and thereby helping us.
Right.
And in turn, helping them, because they have a job, they get paid, all this stuff.
Right.
But it's also kind of interesting. I would say a month, 2 months ago, something like that, I gave most of my employees a raise across the board. We had a good quarter, so I'm like, here you go, everybody gets a raise. But I didn't say anything. So people would, presumably, if they looked, just see it on their paycheck. And I had 2 people notice. And it wasn't it was a big raise.
Sure.
But I don't know if people just are just like, whatever, or it goes in their bank account. I imagine now that you don't get a paper check anymore.
Yeah.
It's just in your account. So as long as the bank doesn't say, hey, you're overdrawn, they're just like, I got money in my bank.
Right, or they haven't really paid attention to their transactions.
Probably
or
not.
Balance to their
So it was kind of funny to me, because I'm like,
maybe they're afraid you made a mistake and they don't want to say anything because they're afraid you'll be like, I'm sorry, I made the mistake.
So it's interesting because only a few people said thank you. Like, hey, that's super cool, yay, right? Yeah. And the others did not. So we'll say 80% didn't. And so my point of view, I'm like, this was a little bit of a social experiment on my end, because I wanted to just send it out there and then see who said thank you.
Yeah.
And then I thought, oh man, these people don't appreciate it. But then I thought, well, in order for them to appreciate it, they have to notice it. And then I thought, well, if they didn't notice it, man, I should just pay them less, because they don't care, kind of thing. It was interesting. I'm not going that road, but it was one of those, like, okay, next time you give someone a raise, tell them. Where I always think when I was a worker bee, I was looking at that check every time.
Yeah. Mostly
to get upset about the taxes being pulled out, but
right.
But it was also one of those, like, hey, I want to see where I'm at kind of thing. So apparently not everybody does that. It's just, but back in the day then,
we got a paper statement
paper checks,
every time. Yeah.
So you get the little thing, and I know they get that email to them, but I don't know if people look at that, or it's among the 5 million other emails they have.
Right.
So.
It could just be buried. They may not open it every
Who
time because they're
knows?
just like,
Yeah.
oh, the email's there, which means I got paid. I'm not looking, and they're just not paying attention.
Yeah, so it's interesting because I was
Yeah.
thinking this is a motivator for you, because if I wasn't paying you, I don't think you'd come to work.
Right.
I mean, it'd be cool if you did, but I don't think you will. So I figured pay is a thing, so let's bump that up, and it didn't even move the needle at all. And now I'm invested in that forever with these people, right? So that's whatever, thousands of dollars a month. It's only money, whatever. So life goes on.
Yeah.
Tell me, when you're working with businesses, I imagine you have different types of businesses. There's going to be the B2C, the B2B, and there's going to be, like you were talking about, the long term, the hot dog cart versus the hot dog. So I want to talk a little bit about, let's just say, food carts in general.
Okay.
As an example
Sure.
of one that you're not necessarily building a relationship with that food cart, right? Because that food cart may not even be on that location the next time you're at that location, right? It may just be a one-time, I'm at this whatever festival, small towny festival or something like that. So from a marketing point of view for, let's just start with a food cart or something like that, what would you suggest for someone like that? I only say that because there's a lot of food carts in our area, and they come and go, right? I mean, tough business. Holy cow, tough business.
Yeah.
So just tell me, if someone were to come to you and say, hey, I got a food cart, how should I market that?
So part of the question would be similar to where you were saying, is where are you planning to park the food cart? And where are you planning to have the food cart show up, right? So if you're saying, well, I'm going to be on this specific corner, my goal is to be in this place every time, then you're going to start working on, well, how do I let people know? First, how do I have the right signage or something around the food cart that people are going to want to come check me out? And then how do I start letting people know, hey, I'm on this food cart, and getting people to talk about it? So maybe making sure they've got something they can give to somebody else, making sure that there's something online. So someone's like, what's that food cart all about? Can I see the menu? Because maybe I want to think about it for tomorrow's lunch or something.
Sure.
And then that they're sort of saying, hey, we're here tomorrow, we're back tomorrow, and starting to reach out to people and see how they're sort of strategic partnerships, or how do you get people talking about it? In a food cart especially is going to be how to get people eating your food.
Right.
Right. So maybe you have to do some things in the beginning where you're giving out a little sample or something to let somebody experience the food for the first time.
Entice them, sure.
Entice them to come in and give it a quick shot, and then they're like, oh, that was really good. I want to try more. So you're going to do some of that organic. If I'm only going to the if you're going to be at all these festivals, right, where they're bringing in an audience, you probably don't have to do a whole lot of marketing, because what you're doing is you're going where there's a pre-existing, like the people are coming and they're looking for food and they're going to be walking up and down. So for something like that, it might be like, well, you need to invest in making sure that the person who's walking 50 feet away, because there's lines, gets an idea of what you sell and what they can buy from you without having to fight the crowd to get up close to the truck. Right. So you'd be better off using some of your money to work on how does that truck itself look, or depending on the rules of the places, can I buy a sandwich board of some kind and put it out?
Oh, sure. Okay.
50 feet that has our menu, so that somebody's like, oh, I'm walking by, that looks really good.
Looks delicious.
It might be worth investing in photos of some of the food, so that that you get that, I can see myself eating that. It's not just that, or working on your descriptions. Okay. Right. So naming your entrees or your selections in a way that's like really enticing and not just jumbo hot dog. Which could be fine, right? If that's really you just want to slop that out. But do you have? I can order this variety, or this variety of a hot dog by saying I want that sort of number 4 versus number 3. So sometimes you're going to counsel on what people would be like. Hey, it's all about outreach. It's like, well, sometimes it's about your offer.
Fair. Oh, absolutely.
And the experience too, right? So it's like, well, what can you do something when they're when they get it or they take it or the way you serve it that makes people be like, man, I've never been at a thing
Right.
and had that experience. So, Kate, Sue, you got to go over here, when they're going back there, you got to go check that place out because that was really, really cool. But some of it's going to be signage.
Okay.
Because you're basically, they probably rented or paid, like they paid to access this other person's audience.
Probably, yeah.
Already. So if the person's bringing the audience and you're not in some weird tucked away corner, you don't have to necessarily try to get everybody to come to the festival.
Right. You just have to
You got to work at how do I get the people at that festival to choose me.
Sure. They're all going to eat, so you have to differentiate yourself from
Right.
all the other trucks around you.
Right.
All right. Yeah, it was interesting. I was just at Cornfest last year, and there's a bunch of trucks, and it was interesting the ones that had lines and the ones that had no lines. And I was looking, trying to figure out, okay, what did they do?
Yeah.
And what did they do? Or what did they not do? And how is it that truck has got a line 20 people deep, that truck has 0 people, and person number 21 is willing to wait in line instead of going to this food truck with no line? It's almost like, hey man, I need at least 5 friends to be with me all day, so that if I don't have a line, I just pay them to stand
To
here.
come stand in line.
Because crowds attract crowds kind of thing.
Right. And you're going to have that issue.
Yeah.
Right. If you end up with nobody and somebody has 20, people are going to automatically be like, what's wrong with that
Yeah, what do they know that we don't know?
truck? Because that would be considered, in the world of marketing, social proof
Absolutely.
of
Yeah.
all these other people are doing it. So that's the safe
Right?
bet. So now you've got the challenge of how do I convince you I'm
Yeah.
the safe bet
No line.
too. And yeah, so if they were experiencing that multiple times, in talking to somebody, you'd have to be like, okay, so let's talk through the experience. I might say, well, what are your best sellers? How much is that promoted? If you're not getting anything, it's rare, but I mean, sometimes you just are selling something nobody wants.
So that is what I found here. And I don't necessarily know if it's something nobody wants or they just didn't even know what it was. Because it was like, here we have cheeseburgers, hot dogs.
Right.
And here we have some ethnic thing of some kind. And me, I like trying new stuff. So
Yeah.
I'm like, let's go there.
Yeah.
I don't know what that is. I don't even know how to pronounce it, but let's just try it. It's something new.
Yeah.
But other people are like, I want what I know.
So one way, like talking that, and I don't know this product, right? So one way somebody could think about that is to say, I've got this thing that nobody knows because it's a different kind of recipe, it's ethnic, or it's just something that people haven't experienced, but they know their cheeseburger, they know their hot dog, or they know their grilled cheese sandwich, like whatever it is. Find something that they know and say, this is the X and X equivalent of,
Sure.
so this is the ethnic hot dog.
Right. I get what you're saying.
You know what I'm saying? Like connected in some way, connected
Yeah.
dots, so somebody can start saying, "Oh, it's that," or let's just say like empanada type stuff, where they it'll have a whole bunch of different types of ingredient in it, but it's really a pocket pie of some kind, right?
Yeah.
So you could be like, this is like eating something stew without the mess.
All right.
Like, or in the palm of your hand, it's a walk and go. It's like when people call something the walking taco or something, right?
Right.
It's like, because
I can relate that to
I can
something
relate
already
that to
know.
the taco or something. So this
Right.
is the, find something that the audience that's there knows, and can help them connect the dots to sort of say, oh, this is one step away from, or 2 steps away from, or find a creative way to describe it.
Sure.
And then somebody might be more likely to say, oh, well, I'll give that one a try. That sounds good. I like baked potatoes, right? So this is a baked, basically a walking baked potato. Somebody might be like, oh,
All right.
let's try that. So sometimes you might have to break the norm to do,
Sure. Fair. Totally fair.
or how you know it.
Let's take it
connect.
to the B2B crowd where you're going to sell your food truck.
Yeah.
So how do you market to people that may be in the market to buy a food truck?
Well, so depending on the business, you might end up creating a sort of a free course or a downloadable guide or something that talks about the keys to success of opening a food truck or operating this kind of food truck.
I like it.
Yeah, helping somebody see if they took your product, your food truck, well, what do I do with it? Or you're making it, it's like I'm helping you. I'm helping
nice.
show you how to use this food truck.
Mm-hmm.
You know, or you know, what goes into, even sometimes it can be, what is it that's an obstacle, or what are the types of questions? Because you probably have more people, you might have people on the phone, it might be you, depending on your business, talking to owners, but you get the same kind of questions all the time in your when you're talking to people. So answer those on your website and in your social channels, so somebody looking can get their answers without talking to you. Because I think studies are now saying about 70% of purchase decision is made, whether it's B2B or B2C, made before anybody wants to talk to anybody on the phone.
You know,
with a live person.
So interesting you say that, because we find with calls on call, people will sign up on our website, which is great. They get a trial package, and it'll pop up like, hey, you got a new customer or whatever. And I reach out to the crew and I say, hey, did anyone talk to this person? No one talked to this person. So on the one side, you're like, yay, pat on the back because our website gave them enough information that they trusted us to start. On the other hand, I'm like, does that mean that we weren't approachable? Because I want to be approachable.
Yeah, it doesn't mean you weren't approachable. It means more people are wanting to investigate and try things out before they talk to somebody.
Yeah.
And what it might say is then, depending on how many of those people are converting, right, what's that nurturing? Like once they sign up for the free trial, other than the free trial, what's the nurturing through emails or other things going on, right, that helps continue to build the relationship and say, and remind people, like your reps or whatever, we're here if, you know, to answer any questions, help you do X, Y, and Z. So they start saying, hey, there are people behind the website who are here to answer my questions if I have more detailed ones, but continuing to even answer some of those questions. So sometimes, you know, the food cart type thing too, it could be, well, what are all those questions? And then a lot of people can be hesitant to say, I want to put pricing out there. But if I can show you the pricing and answer those questions and show you the value that you're getting from it, I got a better chance I'm going to want to go with you, because like I have no idea what these other companies charge. And like I'm already going, like, can it fit in my budget?
Right. The pricing thing is interesting, especially having your prices on the website. Because to me, when I'm looking to buy something, if the price is not right there, I assume, kind of going back to the whole huge yacht kind of thing. Like if you have to ask the price, you can't afford it.
Right.
But I also feel like if you're not willing to put your price out there, you're too embarrassed by your own price. So on all the stuff, the businesses that I have, I put the pricing right up there because I don't want someone to go through and say, oh, I didn't know it was that much, I can't afford you kind of thing.
Right.
I want to be like, here's the pricing. If you can't afford it, we don't need to talk to you. I don't need to waste my time with it. You don't need to waste your time.
Right. Go
find someone, if you can, that's cheaper. Or I feel like if you're reaching out to someone saying, hey, how much is the pricing? They're going to want to be like the window salesman who's like, let me take you on this 3-hour tour of what your windows are, and then we'll go through the pricing. I'll just bore you into buying. I'm like, that's not our game.
Right.
I'm a busy dude. We got busy employees. So if you can't afford what we're offering, then we're probably not a good fit.
Right. And a lot of people will say, oh, it's too complicated because X, Y, and Z factors in and this and that. But there's nothing wrong even in those situations to say it starts at.
Totally.
Or it's going to be between this range and this range. And then you can always potentially put up educational factors that say these are the types of factors that drive the price point differences or ultimately a calculator. But the more transparent you can be, the more people are like, well, I'm not feeling like you're trying to hide something from me, and I'm feeling like I'm just going to get into that. You're going to bore me to death, or you're going to put me through this high pressure sales experience where you just want to get me on the phone, and now you're going to like hammer me when I'm on the phone with you to try to close the deal today, and I'm not ready to buy, so I don't want to talk to.
Yeah, so I'll give you an example. Even earlier this morning, we're talking a few hours ago, I was on a web call. It was going to be a sales call where I was being sold essentially some call answering software. And I thought it was going to be me, my contact, and then essentially he's a middleman for this phone company. So I get on this web thing, and I don't remember if there's 6 or 7 people. And I made the joke, I'm like, we could start a band. Who are these people? Right? And the great majority of them, you couldn't see them. They just had their little initials or whatever. I'm like, what are you doing here?
Yeah.
And then the main guy says, hey, how's it going? And he proceeds to go through the questionnaire that I filled out about what I'm looking for in this software. And I wanted, like when you're in the back of your head, you're thinking, do I say what I'm thinking here? Because what I'm thinking is, I'm the one that filled this out. And everyone here in the meeting that's trying to sell me should have already seen this. So who are you going through this for? But then it dawned on me, this guy's trying to get me to say yes.
Oh.
Yes, okay, so James, you said you're looking for X, Y, and Z. You got 12 employees, blah, 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 blah. Is that right? Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, just like a little dog, yes. Right?
Yeah.
So I'm like trying to get me on this yes train.
Right.
So then I was like, how can I end this as fast as possible? Because I don't want to buy from you because you're wasting my time. Because we should all know this. Everyone in the meeting should all know this information.
When that's a really bad, it's a really good example, but a bad practice of sort of the yes theory, which is like if I can get you to be saying yes, that you're more likely to keep saying yes. But you don't do it by like repeat your, like, is this right?
No.
You do it by saying, like, hey, take this step. And somebody takes that step, like, I'm going to taste your product, and then I'm going to sign up for something else, and then I'm going to sign up for something else.
Right, build up.
And at the same time, you're adding value and building value with them too, because you're giving them small steps they can take. So it isn't like I have to leap across the river. It's, I can take one safe step and kind of test it out, and I can take the other step. And yes, that builds it, but then people will be like, you get them to say yes, and they'll do something like just get him to say a bunch of yeses, so he says yes again. And
right. Constantly, yeah. Do you want to buy?
Right.
I accidentally misspoke.
Right.
So, Mike, I appreciate you being on the show. Where can people find you?
Yeah, find me on LinkedIn. FiddleSmartMarketing.com is the website. So that's a good, and I'm on Facebook too, but LinkedIn or the website are the 2 best places.
Nice. And if they were to go on your website, what would be your funnel where you want them to go to first?
Yeah, I offer a free strategy session. So if somebody's feeling stuck, not sure what to do next, or just how to get their program any kind of traction, they can sign up for a free session, and they'll get a survey to fill out, and then we'll spend 45 minutes on the phone.
Nice.
Giving them some pointers and talking about what their challenges are, and then giving them a takeaway or two of what they could do to solve that. And then if there's opportunities to work together or help it, we'll talk about that. But no matter what, they're walking away with some value for their business.
I love it. I love it. What's the website again?
FiddleSmartMarketing.com.
It doesn't get easier than that, right?
Nope.
This has been Authentic Business Adventures, the business program that brings you the struggle stories and triumphant successes of business owners across the land. We are locally underwritten by the Bank of Sun Prairie. Authentic Business Adventures is brought to you by Calls on Call, offering call answering and receptionist services for service businesses across the country on the web at callsoncall.com, as well as the Bold Business Book, a book for the entrepreneur in all of us, available wherever fine books are sold. If you're listening or watching this on the web, if you could do us a huge favor and keep that little algorithm happy, give it the big old thumbs up, subscribe, and of course, share it with your entrepreneurial friends, especially those that may be having some marketing challenges, which if you own your own business, chances are, if you don't have marketing challenges, you will soon. That's just the name of the game, right?
At some point.
We'd like to thank you, our wonderful listeners, as well as our guest, Mike Schuster of FiddleSmart Marketing. Mike, can you tell us the website one more time?
Yeah, FiddleSmartMarketing.com.
FiddleSmartMarketing.com. Does not get easier than that. Past episodes can be found morning, noon, and night at the podcast link found at drawincustomers.com. thank you for joining us. We will see you next week. I want you to stay awesome. And if you do nothing else, enjoy your business.